Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPaWrites here again, and today I wanted to talk about the Grapple Strand Warlock in Destiny 2. Strand has been my favorite subclass for the Warlock since its release, and it's only been a few weeks, but I'm absolutely loving it. And I was really stuck on the Necrotic Grip Poison Strand build because it's just an absolute blast. But when they got disabled during the contest mode Root of Nightmares, I decided to do some testing and figure out some other options just in case Necrotic Grip got nerfed in the future or disabled for any length of time because of any number of bugs. So because of that, I ended up settling on what might actually be my new favorite replacing the Poison Strand build, and that is Felwinter's Helm with the Grapple Melee. This thing is very good and, in my opinion, very underrated. So, the armor perk it has is Warlord's End. Power Melee Final Blows create a burst of energy that weakens nearby targets. Finishers and Final Blows against more powerful targets increase the radius of the burst and the length of the weakening effect. Essentially, you can either use your Arcane Needle to kill an ad and then spread the weaken effect, and then you grapple melee in, so you're going to do extra damage because they are weakened, or vice versa. You can grapple in and then use your arcane melee. If there's champions or bosses or anything like that, you can weaken them and then use something like a shotgun. I was using conditional finality. You can use like Legend of Acreus. You can use a chill clip fusion rifle, any of those options, and they all work very, very well to finish off big, chunkier ads and bosses, all that kind of stuff, mini bosses. And it's just such a fun loop that I never want to stop doing it. So, going through my full build, we've got some options that are obvious, like the grapple strand grenade. We also have the generic aspects that are the only ones available currently in the game. And it's really nice because your grapple melee spawns 3 eggs with the Mindspun Invocation, and then you also generate threadlings with and deploy any threadlings that are purchased with your rift. So if you grapple into danger and take a bunch of damage, you can just throw down your rift, heal, and generate those threadlings to finish off weakened enemies. And that's really nice because your threadlings are going to do additional damage because you're going to have Thread of Evolution, the fragment on, so they travel farther, deal additional damage, all that kind of good stuff. And essentially, you're just constantly grappling in or using Arcane Needle and then generating threadlings, and everything around you will die. And it's absolutely too much fun to do, and you don't even have to think about it. I also rock Thread of Fury, the fragment, damaging targets with a tango creates melee energy. This is just so I have a lot of uptime on my melee, even with low strength. So I'm constantly using my melee, destroying targets with the tangles, and then rinse and repeat. Also, Thread of Generation, dealing damage generates grenade energy. I want to have my grenade and my grapple back as often as possible. And finally, we've got Thread of Finality, finish your final blows, create threadlings. Again, if you're grappling in there and getting enemies weak and then you're able to finish them, you're going to create those threadlings and create a burst of weakening in the area as well. So those threadlings are going to have an easy time knocking off whatever enemies are in the area. So as far as the weapons that I was personally using for this is, again, conditional finality. This is the raid shotgun. I got fortunate enough to have it drop on my first try. It is phenomenal. However, there's a lot of other good options. You can use a shotgun, you can use a fusion rifle, whatever your sidearm, SMG, whatever you're comfortable with, but you're going to want something close range in that slot. In order to finish off any enemies that might not be defeated with threadlings or your melee. I'm rocking an MAR2. I needed a anti overload weapon, and this is my favorite auto rifle in the game for several seasons. It's probably going to be replaced by Rufus's Fury once I get a really good roll on it, but for now, Emmett is just absolutely tremendous, and I have incandescent on it in order to spread the boom to a lot of other enemies as well. I'm also rocking Dimensional Hypertrochoid. This is the new grenade launcher from the season. I just crafted it, so it's a low level. I would traditionally be rocking a much better roll, but I haven't leveled it up yet. And I wanted to test this out to see how it works with subpar rolls before going on and getting my god roll ready and using that. So this build will be even better once this is max level. I'm also, as far as mods go, I'm rocking Solar Siphon and Ashes to Assets. Solar Siphon because I am using my AR more than my shotgun to finish multiple enemies. I've got double heavy-handed and firepower. This is so I can generate orbs with my melee attacks because I am trying to melee enemies as often as possible, and that's going to allow me to generate a lot of orbs, more so than my weapons even. I've also rocking stasis reserves that works on both my shotgun and my grenade launcher, as well as melee damage resist, so that way I'm getting stomped and pushed and everything. When I grapple in, I'm not taking too much damage. And finally, harmonic resistance, just because I had an extra slot there to toss something on. We've got stasis weapon surge times 2. Again, this will help for my grenade launcher and my shotgun. I would rock times 3, but I also want an absolution on to reduce all my ability cooldowns each time I pick up an orb of power, so I could have them on repeat all the time. And that's just, wasn't doing a ton of weapon damage besides the bosses, so I didn't really worry about triple weapon search. I'm also rocking double time dilation, and yeah, that's the bulk of the build. Like, the loop is pretty simple as far as the gameplay goes with this build. Either use your arcane needle and grapple in, or vice versa, and destroy a bunch of ads, drop your rift if you need to, and then you're constantly moving the battle forward and trying to jump into the next fight as quickly as possible. Standing around and just shooting does not help this build. It might not be the best for grandmasters necessarily, but even on like a contest mode raid, even on content where you are getting taken down somewhat quickly, for most content in this game, this build is going to be great. Grapple melee might struggle, like I said, in Grandmasters, but outside of that, I was using this in Legend and Master Lost Sectors. There's a lot of different places where you wouldn't think a build like this would be viable because it does seem somewhat risky, but because of how much damage you're outputting, how many ads you're able to clear, and how much protection you have as you're generating all these threadlings, and then you're able to drop your rift and all that kind of good stuff, it doesn't really feel like you're ever in danger with this build. And that's one of the things that I like the most about it, because I like to be aggressive. I like to play with the space power fantasy of Destiny 2, and sometimes these builds are fun but not really viable, and this is one that I believe personally, if you play your cards right, is viable and fun, and that's a W for me, absolutely. So if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me. I'm obviously throwing out a lot of builds recently. I'm going to have loads more Destiny 2 and Season of Defiance, Lightfall and Season of Defiance content going forward as well, because I'm really, really hooked on the game. But yeah, I appreciate each and every one of you. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all